Continuing on with our Pride Month movie reviews today, I chose a movie to represent the T in LGBTQ+. The T stands for trans. Now, before we even get started, I would like to throw something out here as a lifelong Downton Abbey fan, because this would have been kind of the same time, maybe just like a smidge beforehand. But my point is this. Number one, Albert Nobbs would absolutely be welcome in the Downton house. I do think eventually Albert would have to disclose everything to Mr. Carson, and it would be a shock initially, but Mr. Carson would be okay. Thomas would probably use Albert's history as blackmail, but that would pass. Leading into that second thought, if any of these other employed bitches in this movie were to walk into fucking Downton, I have no doubt that Downton staff would throw hands. Mrs. Hughes would absolutely cave in that hotel owner's face. Anna would have run fucking Helen off. Teeny tiny sweet as a bumblebee Anna would have run her off. Which is saying a whole lot of something because she had a lot of empathy for Ethel in the first couple of seasons. Sorry, I know we haven't even gotten started on this. I just wanted to throw that out there because that was like 99% of my brain throughout this movie. Also, maybe the scullery maid would have been okay. Maybe. Anyways, now let's get started. This is 2011 Albert Nobbs, starring Glenn Close, Mia Wasikowska, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Janet McTeer, and Jonathan Rhys Meyers. Which is a movie I saw a commercial for when it first came out, but I never rented it at Redbox for some odd reason. But I had a whole reason to now. So what is it about? Okay, Albert Nobbs, played by Glenn Close, is a waiter/butler at a failing hotel. Which, for the time period of between Bridgerton but before Downton Abbey, being a waiter/butler would be exclusively a man's job. So here's what you need to know on that. Albert Nobbs was born as a woman, as per the explanation in the film. Albert was orphaned at 14 and then gang raped, unfortunately. And to support themselves, they decided to make the transition to become a man so that they can serve as a waiter/butler because it's very good business. Because Albert is hiding such a detrimental secret, they kind of shy away from everybody. But anyway, so Albert lived as kind of a recluse because he was so worried that somebody would find out. But he was still very lonely. Until one day the hotel hires a house painter to paint, I think it was the kitchen. And Albert had to share a bedroom with the painter, which I guess back in the day, having the help, sleep in the same bed wasn't that big of a deal. So Albert's really freaked out over the whole sharing a bed thing, thinking they were going to be discovered. But come to find out, the house painter is also in the same position as Albert. Well, come to find out. So the painter used to be married to a male painter, and the painter used to beat the shit out of them. And that's when they decided they were going to make the transition. And then they took a wife. And that's how they live their life. It's everything Albert wants. Albert wants a wife. Albert wants a tobacco shop. And the painter was like, yeah, you can have that. See, I have that. So Albert sets his eyes on one of the maids named Helen. Helen, at the same time, is also shacking up with the boiler man. The dude who runs the boiler. They are shacking up. They are fucking. But Albert didn't know that at the time and asked out Helen. And then Helen told the boiler guy, and the boiler guy was like, oh, well, I want to take you to America. You should see if you can bleed Albert dry of monies. So Albert and Helen go on a couple of dates. Albert keeps buying her things. By this point, Albert knows that Helen was also seeing the boiler guy, but thought Helen could be persuaded to not be with the boiler guy and instead marry Albert. But then the scullery maid lets Albert know that Helen done got knocked up by the boiler guy and they're trying to leave for America, but he's never gonna fucking take her to America. So Albert goes to Helen and Albert's like, I'll take care of you, I'll take care of the baby. But boiler guy is super fucking drunk and tries to go after Helen during this whole conversation. And then Albert jumps on boiler guy. Albert is knocked back into the wall with a traumatic brain injury and dies. And it was really fucking sad because Albert never got anything they wanted. They didn't get their tobacco shop or a wife. Had to live his life terrified. So after he hit his head, he went to lay down in his bed and you can see blood gushing out of his ear. But he dies, and then the next morning Helen goes in to wake him up and he's dead, rigor mortis dead. Well, the doctor goes in to check on Albert to see if he's actually dead and discovers the chest binding. And then everybody finds out And then the hotel owner discovers Albert's bank book and all the money, to which she uses all the money to hire the house painter to paint the whole hotel and all the other shit for the hotel. But she also kept on Helen, who had the baby, and named it Albert. The end. Now, did I like it? I think the premise is very interesting, but I think I would have liked it a lot more as a TV series than I did a movie. We could have even kept the really sad ending. I wanted more. And my other qualm is this movie is ridiculously quiet. Like, I thought it was our TV that was the problem because I had to turn it all the way up on max volume of 100, which we have like one of those Roku on TVs. But like Mr. Crush Parking Lot Candy changed the TV to YouTube after my movie and it worked just fine. So I think it's the movie itself. So because of that, I'm going to take points off as well. And I'm taking a point off because of some secondhand embarrassment. Embarrassment number one being knowing that Helen is using Albert to buy her things. And you know, it wasn't just like a small thing, a doodad, a ribbon for her hair. No, it was a bottle of whiskey and chocolates. I think it was chocolates. A pair of shoes and stockings. We're talking expensive shit. And then the painter, like right after his wife died, Albert goes over there and is like, I can live with you. We can live together just like that. And we can have a shop. Like, Albert, his wife just died. Maybe give some space. So because of all this, I'm going to give it like a 7 out of 10. I think that's fair. 7 out of 10. Okay, bye. I don't know a song that would go with this. Cue the Downton Abbey theme. Do 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 do.